Hogan, student number 215, and today we're gonna work on some instrumentation. We're gonna start with the shepherd's hook in Urbane, which is our EX23 and our TU17. That's the Urbane part, and this is our shepherd's hook. We are going to start with the shepherd's hook, which is used for assessment of carries in the pits and fissures, as well as any cingulums. I check the pits and the fissures. And we have our little pits here on our premolars, and then you would use it to check cingulums. All right, now we'll go into our TU17, or our anterior assessment tool, and this is used to find any accretion, so calculus on the teeth. All right, we'll go in, we'll start on away surfaces, and we'll go, and you gotta go interproximally, really letting the instrument feel for any rough spots on the teeth, whether that be, you know, little granular parts of calculus or bigger ledges of calculus. So here you really want to have a light touch and let the instrument do a lot of the feeling. All right, and this is used just for anterior teeth because of the straight shank. Okay, next we will be using our posterior explorer, which is the EXD 1112. See how it's curved a little more, so you can really reach back into the posterior of the mouth. So you want the bump facing towards the back. Here we will insert on the distal line angle and walk it in to find any accretions and calculus in the posterior teeth. And walk into the distal, take it out, turn it, and walk it into the mesial. So this is similar to the TU17, the Urbane. You really want the instrument to do a lot of the work. You know, have a light touch. Make sure you're getting interproximally to detect any calculus. All right. Next, we will move on to our UNC12, which is our probe, which is used to detect pocket depths. So here, working in the posterior, we would insert on the distal line angle, dip into that coal, walk it back out into the mesial and into that coal as well. Remove it, go to the next tooth, and work with the same process. This can also be used to detect some calculus deposits. The tip is a little thicker than the tip of our explorers, but it can still detect any, you know, any added properties on that tooth. Next, we will use our Gracie Curette 3-4, which works subgingivally. Where are we There we are. It works subgingivally to remove any calculus that we have detected with our explorers in our probe. So we'll do surfaces away first, and this is used in the anterior because of its simple shank. It would be harder to really reach in the back with this. So we'll start here. We'll start here on our anterior tooth and distances away. We really want to get under there, get in there to remove any calculus. Make sure to get as far as interproximally as you can. We're starting in the midline of the tooth and working into that distal interproximal. Insert. Okay, and then we will flip our instrument. And we will work coming back. Really trying to remove any calculus we feel with that lateral pressure. Start at the midline. Okay. Now we're going to move into our Gracie Curette 1718, and this is our posterior debridement instrument. We only use it going from the distal line angle to the distal interproximal. Just because of its very complex shank, it can really get around the backs of those posterior teeth. So we're going to insert on our distal line angle and walk it back into that distal interproximal. And going on to the next tooth. And really using that wrist activation to free any calculus deposits. Now, once I get up to the closer to the front of the mouth, I usually take my mirror out and just retract with either my thumb or my index finger of my left hand, just because sometimes the mirror can bump up on this alveolar mucosa and it can be painful, uncomfortable for the patient. So we really just want to make sure we're getting along there. Okay. Next, we are going to use our 1516, our Gracie Curette 1516. And these, it has a complex shank similar to our 1718. It's just a little less curved. This will go from the distal line angle into the mesial interproximal. So we'll insert here on our distal line angle using lateral pressure. And we do that for the next tooth. And wrist activation here is very important, because you're really trying to get that tough calculus out of there, and it takes a little more power than you would be using if you were just exploring and searching for the calculus. Next, we have our 4R, 4L, which is our Columbia. It is our universal curette. So we can use that posteriorly and anteriorly to remove calculus. Sometimes it's a little thicker than our 3-4, so it can be a little more difficult with healthy gingiva to use it in the anterior, but it still works just fine. This is one of those instruments in the front of the mouth where we're doing surfaces away with one end and surfaces towards with the other end. So we would be flipping our instrument, not just turning it once we got to the front of the mouth. And I can demonstrate that here. So for surfaces away, the end that I'm using right now would be sufficient. I would do start at the midline and go into that mesial interproximal of these first 3 teeth, and then it would be the midline to the distal interproximal of these last 3 teeth. And then we would flip our instrument to come back around this way. All right. Next, we will go into using our Nevi 1, which is our anterior scaler. This is a supragingival debridement instrument. Reason it's supragingival is due to the sharp end. So we start on the line angle, using that lateral pressure to really get any of that calculus off that is supragingivally or interproximally. Then we would turn it and come back. All right, and we also have the scoop on the back, which is used for any, removing stains on the backs of these anterior teeth. Okay, and lastly, we have our posterior scaler, which is our Nevi 4. This is our SD204, and it works in a similar way. You use it supragingivally for those posterior teeth to really get any of that calculus off. And interproximally. And you can get pretty close to the gum line. Just be aware of where your instrument's going, and make sure you have a steady fulcrum so that you're not slipping and injuring your patient. And those are the instruments we have. Thank you.